huge effects on how we live our lives. From consumerism to our cost of education to government spending programs that can directly benefit or hurt all of us. Money is a pretty serious issue. And government spending is something that I want to talk about today. There's a program in Seattle known as Initiative 122, which is the Democracy Voucher Program. And it's a pretty important measure that is being looked at nationwide through kind of a spectacle as to whether or not it is feasible nationwide. Approved in 2015, Initiative 122 allows city residents to contribute financially to local candidates running for office without spending a dime of their own money. Instead, the state government sends each registered voter 4 $25 vouchers that they can give to a candidate of their choice who they see fit to lead. The idea behind this is simple. Take big money out of elections and let the people have their voices heard and increase political participation in the political conversation. I believe that although this program might be ineffective at first in the first couple of years, it is a program that over time will be extremely effective at the local level and might gain enough traction to be used at the national level. So just a short 2 years after passing in 2015, what is it doing today? So this is what the vouchers will look like. The program authorized an increase to property taxes, which is where the money comes from for the vouchers. This raises property tax, according to the Seattle Times, about $9 for a $450,000 property and $11 for a $500,000 property. So the rate for increases kind of goes up as property levels or property prices increase. It might seem like a lot of money. It authorizes $30 million over 10 years. But it's over 10 years, so it's averaging $3 million a year, and it might be comforting to know that the Washington State Department of Revenue declared $345 million of taxes on alcohol, not alcohol sales, taxes on alcohol in 1 year. So $3 million in 1 year compared to that is not very bad. The fact that every voter in the city of Seattle has the ability to financially support a candidate is something that is huge and revolutionary. According to this chart, which I was compiled by the election committee of Seattle, Wayne Barnett, the executive director of the Elections Commission, said that only 1 to 2% of Seattle voters actually make campaign contributions. With the voucher system in place, it is hoped that that number will jump to 15%. And while not perfect, this is a calculated measure, as if 100% of people came out and spent their democracy vouchers, the tax system would have to raise $50 million in 10 years. And they're not expecting 100% of people to come out and spend their vouchers. So while 15% isn't perfect, it is actually a calculated measure, and they're only expecting about this many people to come out. And the increase from 1 to 2% to 15% is something that is very important in terms of political participation and getting people involved in the political process. As former candidate for city council Tammy Morales said in an interview with PBS, the real goal of this is to strengthen our voices and make sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable to the people who they want to represent. Not to wealthy donors, not to lobbyists, but to people they will actually represent. This process is going to allow people that the people of Seattle see fit to lead actually gain traction and be able to run legitimate campaigns, whereas they wouldn't be able to previously. As you can imagine, there are plenty of limits that come with this initiative. For example, it does not force candidates to use the voucher system. Candidates can decide that they want to opt out and raise funds privately, which they are more than welcome to do. This would potentially allow a candidate to raise millions of dollars in private finance, which would be unfair. And the initiative has prevention for that. The Democracy Voucher Program caps city council candidate spending at $300,000. If a opponent who is running independently with privately financed money that cap is raised. If the independent campaign spends more than $300,000, the candidate using the voucher system can now break that $300,000 threshold and spend more to match that of the privately financed campaign. Probably the biggest area of concern around this initiative, though, is a concept called bundling, shown here by this super accurate graph. It's a process of taking tens of thousands of dollars into vouchers through an intermediary, whether it be a certain demographic or community. The intermediary will say, hey, send us your vouchers filled out to this person because they represent, this value that we all share. And that intermediary will then send all of the money they collect to a certain candidate that they want to elect. So to give an example, it would be like a candidate holding a favorable stance towards Starbucks. Starbucks can give an incentive to their employees saying, send us your vouchers, we'll give you something extra, we'll give you extra pay, we'll give you, certain benefits if you send us all $100 of your democracy vouchers so that we can support this candidate that will make our business more profitable. Imagine all of a sudden a candidate just has $50,000 of vouchers from one entity. That's kind of the main issue here, is that opponents have argued that, quote, bundled together, a third party could deliver, say, $10,000 in contributions and get unusual leverage over a cash-strapped candidate. That isn't the purpose of the program. That's the very purpose that the program is trying to eliminate. But you would be mistaken if there wasn't a solution to this problem. One of the first strategies employed to prevent bundling and its effects within the city is that the initiative's rules prohibit candidates from receiving contributions from any person or company with at least $250,000 in city contracts or $5,000 in lobbying expenses. Immediately, you can start to rule out the billion-dollar companies that are in the Seattle area. Starbucks, Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, and many other top lists with millions of dollars in lobbying expenses. But those aren't the only ways that bundling can happen. It can be interest groups, and it can be communities that come together for a cause. Bundling, however, there's a second prevention strategy that the state government has started to employ. Bundling, defined as a single person or group acting as an intermediary to advertise, recruit, and gather campaign contributions to be given to a candidate, is illegal under Washington state law. So almost immediately, the worry of bundling can disappear. But this by no means has the implication that interest groups cannot steer their respective members towards spending on a certain candidate. That's what happens today. But the main reasoning behind this is, if 1 to 2% of people are speaking on behalf of the 100% of the population, that's not really democratic. If, say, 15%, while it isn't a huge increase, but if 15% of people are giving to candidates, that's far better than 1 to 2% giving their contributions. 15% of people could spend the same way as the 1 to 2%, or they could spend differently. It's not how they spend, though. It's that they are spending. It's that they are getting their money involved in politics. I'm not trying to tell you that this is an end-all solution to getting big money out of elections. There are numerous ways that could be done. But what does it mean for you guys? A lot of you guys are from California. This program could have implications at a national level. But as of now, that is long into the future. The most important thing that any of you guys can do right now is just wait. Change takes time. And Seattle's being looked at through kind of a microscopic lens right now to see if this process will actually work. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's what democracy is all about. You make changes by letting your voice be heard. Change is something that everyone calls for, but when the time comes for change, they back down in fear and they let silence make their decisions for them. We don't know if the program will improve the situation or not, but you can't make change by being silent. This initiative breaks that silence. It has and will continue to allow Seattle residents to have their voices heard.